Yes, it looks like our favorite matriarch, Donna Adelson, is back in the headlines and taking a play out of BRYAN KOHBERGER's book, as she is now seeking a change in venue for her upcoming unaliving trial, which is scheduled or has since then been rescheduled for June, which, if things seem to go on track in the world of Karen Read, that'll potentially be at the tail end of Karen Read's trial. So we're going to have a very, very busy Q2 if all seems to go to plan. And if you're here for it, I'm here for it. So let's get into it. Hello, 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 and welcome to Alexasrewm, where we are not lawyers, we are not medical professionals, and we are not law enforcement. We are just people. People who have opinions about all things going on in the true crime community, including this breaking news about our favorite family, the Adelson family. Now, if you haven't been following this case, there have been 5 arrests, 4 convictions, with potentially Donna being the final one in the family to fall. We don't know if Wendy's going to get charged or not, although it seems like potentially more could come out in Donna's trial and potentially more charges could come about. So we shall see. But until then, let's catch up and see, what's going on here. So no one can unring that bell as Donna Adelson's new set of attorneys. If you have been following this case, she was formerly represented by the same attorney that Charlie Adelson was represented by back in 2023. So since then, lots of shenanigans have gone down. He is no longer able to represent her in a plan which seems like Charlie might have tried to screw his own mother over. But let's see. The family drama just keeps on going. If you thought the Murdochs were bad, the Adelsons are equally as toxic. So Donna is trying to get her trial moved out of town, so out of Tallahassee, where she was originally, or is technically still scheduled to take place, citing a widespread of publicity in the years-long Dan Markel case, because this case has literally been going on for 10 plus years now, 11 years. We're in 2025. This took place in 2014. And like I said, 5 arrests, 4 convictions. Georgia Kappelman, aka the GOAT of prosecutors, in my humble opinion. She's going for 5. She's going for a 5er. So this is their argument, and recent coverage of a closed-door hearing involving her estranged son, Rob Adelson. So Rob is set to testify in this upcoming trial. We haven't heard from Rob previously. He has not testified in any of the previous trials. To my understanding, there was a falling out over the woman that he wanted to marry, which comes into a big part of the point of contention between Donna and Dan and their relationship during Wendy's marriage to Dan Markel, leading up to their separation, their divorce, and ultimately, unfortunately, his unaliving, which she is being accused of having a heavy hand in. So her new attorneys, Josh Zellman and Jackie Fulford of Tallahassee, filed a motion yesterday afternoon seeking a change of venue, which, to my knowledge, seems a little bit premature. Usually this stuff comes a little bit in like the week. I feel like in the weeks or, couple months leading up to, and if her trial is scheduled for June, this does seem a little bit early in the game, but I guess we'll find out the tactics of strategy. I don't know. She's charged with first-degree conspiracy and solicitation in the 2014 contract unaliving of Dan Markel, who was a Florida State University law professor and, of course, her former son-in-law. Talk about having mean in-laws, right? Her lawyers wrote that they intended to raise the issue of a venue change after trying to pick a jury in her trial, which, again, it's like you don't even have a jury yet. Like, you're nowhere near, you're so far out from picking a jury. In my, not asked for unprofessional, non-legal opinion, it does seem a little premature, in my opinion. which again is supposed to start in June, but they said they were forced to file it sooner. So this is a reason after the clerk of the court failed to seal a transcript of a hearing concerning Rob Adelson, who is a I wouldn't say a star witness, but a state witness, and a New York doctor who's been estranged from his family since the Markel unaliving, and even previous to that, because again, from what I've learned and what I've heard from Rob in, I believe, I forget what podcast it was. There is a podcast, and I think he did do an interview where he did say it was his choice in partner. Parents didn't approve, and he was like, well, I want to be with this person, and you can either get over it or, I'm not going to let you control my life. And control seems to be something that Donna needs to constantly be in, especially regarding her children's love lives, particularly with her daughter, Wendy. The transcript of the September 6th hearing was posted on the clerk's website for a time, prompting coverage by the Tallahassee Democrat, which is this publication right here, and others. The Democrat's article, which we're going to check out now, was listed as Exhibit A in the motion. So I don't know if this was a big fat oopsie by the clerk court, if stuff like this typically doesn't happen. What I will say is that this case has been widely covered. I know Surviving the Survivor has covered this case extensively. Pretty Lies and Alibis as well too, on top of all of the additional media coverage within that area too. But I still think, if you think back to the Lacey Peterson case and the Scott Peterson trial, there was a similar motion, a change of venue. I don't know, did Scott Peterson actually get that granted? Hold on. Yes. Okay. So my memory does serve me correctly. Scott Peterson's trial was moved. So it's not like it never happens, but again, different strokes for different folks, right? Different states. So whether or not this will get granted based on the lovely Judge Everett's previous rulings, I don't know, especially because this is so far out. And yeah, this case has been going on for years and years and years, and I'm sure there are a lot of locals who know about the case, but not everybody's into true crime like we are, right? Not everybody follows cases, eats, sleeps, and breathes, watching trials and coverage like we do. But you can make that argument for literally any case nowadays, right? It's going to be highly publicized. It's going to be covered by news media outlets. It's going to be talked about on YouTube. This is the new world that we live in, where information is easily accessible and is so constantly on demand. It's kind of hard to make a viable argument as opposed to back in the day. Again, going back to Scott Peterson, that was a totally different time, and I don't know if the same ruling would be made nowadays, what with all technology and the internet being so fast, and again, information being constantly in demand. So again, this is the article that was referenced as Exhibit A, what unsealed court documents say about Donna's estranged son, Rob. So let's check it out. So Rob Adelson, the testimony of Rob, a state witness and the oldest son of the three, was the focus of a closed-door hearing at the Leon County Courthouse on September 6th. So I believe this was 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks before her original trial was supposed to begin. And we were going to cover this. I was all geared up and ready to go. And then they were like, oh, Dan Rashbaum, you can't be your attorney anymore. And that was a wild day. I think I posted a video on that. You can check it out. I will link it in my description box below. Though the topic of the hearing was unknown at the time, there were indications it involved Rob Adelson, had a falling out with his parents, his brother, Charlie, and Wendy after Markel was unalive. So I guess that was really the breaking point. Maybe he left the door open for a potential relationship, maybe a distant one at that, between him and his family. But this was the straw that broke the camel's back, I'm putting my foot down to unaliving. That's where I draw the line, guys. I can't have a relationship with you if you're really effed up like that. Charlie was convicted in 2023, and then Donna was arrested just a few short weeks after in an attempt to flee to Vietnam, which was a laugh and a half. Don't buy a one-way ticket if you don't want to get caught, right? A transcript of the hearing, which was briefly unsealed before being scrubbed from the public record, so I guess this was an oopsie, confirmed that the proceeding was held to discuss a sealed defense motion seeking to limit or preclude testimony from Rob. Participating in the hearing before Leon Circuit Judge Stephen Everett were attorneys, Donna's then attorneys Dan Roshbaum and Robert Alex Morris of Tallahassee, and Assistant State Attorneys Georgia Kappelman and Sarah Catherine Dugan. So I'm almost curious too, and my lawyer friends, those who are law savvy, can Dan Roshbaum be a witness in her trial? I don't know. Probably not, because I imagine that was a lot of what they spoke about is attorney-client privilege, but I know there were some questions about some statements that she had made in some audio recording about what Dan potentially knew about her booking some tickets, one-way tickets to Vietnam. So I don't know. Didn't go as planned, right? As we said, on September 17th, the first day of jury selection, Roshbaum withdrew as her attorney over conflicts involving his previous representation of Charlie, her son, prompting Everett to postpone the trial. It's now scheduled to begin in June. He ordered a recording of the hearing, which was held privately in his chambers, unsealed on December 10th, so Donna's new attorneys could have it transcribed. The transcript was available on the court's public website for several weeks, but was taken down only this week. Whoopsies! Right? During the hearing, the lawyers referred to comments Rob made in an earlier deposition. The Tallahassee Democrat requested a copy of the deposition on Tuesday from the state attorney's office. At the request of prosecutors, Everett ordered the deposition sealed the next day. The hearing was one indication that Rob could play an important role in his mom's upcoming trial. I mean, if anybody's got some serious tea, it's Rob Adelson, and I'm sure his wife too, right? Here are highlights from the proceeding. Judge, no witness can just wildly say, I think the defendant's a unaliver. During the 20-minute hearing, Roshbaum referred to a number of admissions of Donna Adelson made to Rob, who has been listed as a state witness in the previous Markell trials, but was never called to stand. So he was always a witness, but was never called before. This time, he's going to get called. And I assume that's because there was no direct link in terms of like what was said to any of the other players in the case, right? The only other person I could potentially see a connection to is Charlie, obviously, but if he hadn't spoken to Charlie directly or exchanged any kind of text messages or anything like that, or any other communications, for me, it wouldn't make sense to call him. Roshbaum said he didn't have a problem with those statements coming into evidence, but he said both opinion testimony and character opinion testimony were not admissible. We think that with this particular witness, given his relationship to the defendant, if there is a misstep here, it would necessitate a mistrial. Dugan said she didn't plan to elicit what Everett called just pure opinion testimony from Rob. He did provide a lot of opinion in his deposition, but he was also asked why this, why that, why did he bring that to law enforcement's attention, or whatever, which is interesting, right? It's not just a, angry, estranged son who's talking smack about his mama. It's this guy who's trying to do the right thing from what it sounds like. I won't be asking any of that. I won't be asking him his opinion on anything, just keeping it to fact. Why did you present this, etc. Then Everett chimed in saying, I think it's fairly clear as a matter of law, no witness gets to come in and just wildly say, I think the defendant's an unaliver. So I guess this is some of the things that I guess would be kind of a character opinion, right? Considered that. Would be, he said his mom was very sharp and not gullible in his deposition. Dugan said she planned to ask Rob about comments he made in his deposition about whether his mom was gullible or easily fooled. Like, she's not this dainty little old lady, right? Who's getting taken advantage of. Like, she's calculated, she's manipulative, controlling, she knows what she's doing, right? He said, no, she's very sharp, highly educated, right? I think she used to be a teacher as well, too, if I'm not mistaken, before she started working with and she was on Wheel of Fortune, too, right? Like, you gotta be kind of sharp to be on those game shows, right? Lori Vallow was another one who was on Wheel of Fortune. Lots of people. Sarah Boone was also on a Nickelodeon game show when she was a kid. So it's a lot of weird, there's a commonality. I was going to make a video on this actually, and I still might have. All the people known to do or be charged with X, Y, and Z crimes and have appeared on game shows. Let me know if you want to check that kind of video out, because there's so many different links, and I don't know, maybe it's like a common denominator thing. There's something about being in the spotlight that attracts these types. I don't know, but so that's Sarah Dugan right there. Morris, so this was her other attorney, former attorney, Morris, whom Everett later disqualified as Donna Adelson's lawyer over the same conflict issue that prompted Rashbaum's exit, said Rob Adelson's description of her was actually a lot more inflammatory than Dugan's account. It was that there's no person who places their own interests first or something like that than Donna Adelson, he said. Rashbaum said it wasn't admissible. Everett replied that he may be correct as it pertains to the state's case in chief, but he didn't close the door entirely depending on what comes out during the defense case as a matter of rebuttal. If any of the arguments are ignorance at that point, it's fair game. So he's essentially saying, I'm going to open the floodgates and you have every opportunity to rebut as needed. Rebut! Defense. State wants to show Rob believes his mom's guilty. So it's a whole lot of this. I'm not going to read through the whole thing. I'll link this in my description box if you want to read the full article. But that is Exhibit A. So jumping back to today's article. During that hearing, the court ruled that Rob Adelson's opinion was inadmissible. The defense wrote, it's damaging enough that his son is called to testify against his mother. The shock and horror. I don't know what to tell you. Now with this information about his inadmissible opinion out there, no one can unring that bell. And to be fair, I mean, I could see this kind of argument. I don't think it's strong enough to support a change in venue per se, but I definitely think it could be a strong argument as to what's allowed and what's not allowed from Rob's testimony in her upcoming trial in June. But I just feel like this is so premature and this isn't enough to really, I mean, not for nothing. It's not like the United Healthcare CEO unaliving, right? Luigi Mangione, right? That is being covered everywhere nationally. That is a huge, huge, huge case that involves so many different big agencies. Even the P. Diddy case, like that's totally different. It's a very high profile case. Not that this isn't, and not that this didn't attract a lot of attention for the area, but I mean, it's not like Piers Morgan's going on talking about this case. You know, it's not that widely publicized in my opinion. Where I feel like it would definitely taint a jury pool. The defense lawyer said that unlike other trials in which a change of venue was denied, the pretrial publicity in Donna Adelson's case includes traditional news as well as blogs and podcasts by lawyers and lay people, which is literally every case ever. So like, again, it's just not strong enough in my opinion. Adelson's attorneys asserted that, again, BRYAN KOHBERGER, that was one reason why the judge presiding over an unrelated case, the unaliving trial of BRYAN KOHBERGER, granted a change of venue last year. But again, that was a really, really highly publicized case. Fulford and Zellman wrote that Adelson cannot receive a fair trial in Leon County despite her constitutional right to an impartial jury. The pretrial publicity in this case has been so inflammatory, emotional, and pervasive that the Leon County jury pool is now tainted by preconceptions, bias, and prejudice towards Mrs. Adelson. They said the effects of this publicity make it impossible for a Leon County jury to render a fair verdict based solely on the evidence presented at trial. I mean, it's not like I don't expect them to file something like this. I feel like most attorneys do. It's just kind of like common practice. But still, again, like, this is the internet. We're in the digital age, man. Like, long crimes, uploading body cam footage left and right of all these different things. If you tried changing the venue for every case, I mean, nobody would ever get prosecuted or convicted or tried ever. Like, period, end of story. Nobody would have a fair trial. And it just is what it is. And I think there's an important lesson to this of how we take a look at some of our laws so we can still protect our rights and make sure we're still getting due process at the end of the day. But I just don't see this being a huge issue for Donna, especially because a lot of the trials have been so far spread out. I mean, 2023, her son was tried. We're in 2025. Not that people forget, of course, right? People never forget. But it's not like this is all unraveling all at once, right? I mean, again, for gosh sakes, like, Karen Reed's being tried again. Number 2. Like, and they're not changing the venue, right? I mean, again, it'd be silly on the defense to request something like that, but you catch my drift. State Attorney's Office has not yet filed a reply. We will record a video when they do. The hearing involving Rob Adelson's testimony has been sealed, but Everett ordered it temporarily unsealed on December 10th so that her new attorneys could transcribe it. The transcript was available on the court's public website, as we just read. He also sealed Rob Adelson's deposition, which was referred to at the hearing after the Democrat requested a copy from the state attorney's office, right? Everett ordered a recording of the hearing, which was held privately in his chambers, unsealed on December 10th, so Donna Adelson's new attorneys could have it. It was available, then it was taken down this week, so it was up for a few weeks. So if you were able to read it and you got a hold of it, definitely send it over to me. Donna Adelson is the 5th person charged in the unaliving for hire of Dan Markel following the arrest and convictions of her son Charlie, yada yada. He's now serving life in prison. I also heard that his baby mama was also recently arrested for DUI, so I always feel horrible for the kids, because the kids are always the biggest victims in all of this, right? They never ask for, and they shouldn't be punished for what their parents have done, right? Or their grandparents in that case. There's so many kids involved, and it's just so heartbreaking. And at the end of the day, I just hope that Dan Markel gets justice and justice is served. So with that being said, if you enjoyed today's video and you find this case fascinating, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you do not miss that reply follow-up video from me, and make sure you hit that like button, because that tells the YouTube algorithm that this is newsworthy news. I can't even imagine what the family is going through, what his children have been going through for all of these years without having a father, all the Christmases and holidays they've spent without their father. It's just absolutely heartbreaking, and it seems like we're starting to come to the end of everything, whether or not Wendy will actually get charged in the end of it. As Georgia Kappelman said, stay tuned. So we'll stay tuned for that, and we'll keep you all updated as long as you guys are interested in cases like this. And if you have any suggestions, feel free to email me. You can find my email at the bottom of the description box below, or you can drop me a comment, and I will see if that is something that also piques my interest, so we can have a thought-provoking discussion, because that's what we're all about here on Alexasrewm. So that being said, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.